Hello friends, I have spent all night looking for answers to what has happened, and I think I have found them. I even thought of throwing in the towel because I couldn't find an explanation, but I always find it when I look for it because I have the instinct of a bloodhound. I have begun to understand something of the great game of light, and I feel as if I had won the lottery. I remember the demonstration of something by means of its reduction to the absurd, that I was taught in mathematics. This article is so important and laborious that I haven't had time to go out today. Someone asked me about my secret to find inspiration. It's the same secret that the great genius Nikola Tesla had, except for the differences. It consists of working at night because the mind is more dispersed during the day. In the fog of war, everything seems confused, but the fog will lift and the light will shine on us all at last. Let the sun shining. Opinion article. Quantum reasoning of the absurd. The sun entered Aquarius yesterday, but the stage was very stale. The popcorn was bitter. Enough of so many dreams broken by fear. It had to happen to expose something shocking. The logical principle of causality has been reversed. The military wanted Biden to be sworn in. The incoherence, the nonsense, and the illogic spoiled the party. Everything's based to a quantum computing strategy. A chess game was not lost, but the move was lost. The ceremony was not live. It was recorded beforehand. Trump's secret letter to Biden. Joe, you know I won. Causes sometimes produce effects contrary to those expected. This has been a demonstration by reduction ad absurdum. It is necessary to expose evil in order for people to wake up and react. Evil has been allowed to run its course in order to show itself. Trump, in quotes, it's not going to be a long goodbye. We will see each other again. Not long would mean this wouldn't last 4 more years. Juan Osabin said Trump left General Flynn in charge of army. Fulford believes in an interregnum to create the new restored republic. In the fog of war, all seems hazy, but the sun will rise again. Edmund de Rothschild faked his death and hid in Patagonia? It's a question. James Gilliland's message to the discouraged and disillusioned. He believes the big announcements would come in late March or April. Some human beings covet power and wealth at the expense of others. The depth and dimensions of this plan are inconceivable to the most people. The great lies will be exposed, and those who perpetuate them will publicly revealed. The profiteers of war and disease will fall when the people awaken. Those who covet power and wealth lack the frequency necessary for change. All tyranny will implode upon itself because it doesn't align with universal law. Things may not unfold as we expect, but victory is assured. We will see anti-gravity, free energy, holographic beds, energy healing, and more. Let's start. We are on a hangover Thursday. After yesterday's show on Wednesday, which was the day of broken dreams, something that the generation of young millennials between 20 and 35 years old was already very used to. Everyone talks a lot about the theater of the upset that we have experienced, but I must confess that I am not satisfied with almost any answer or explanation. And I say this with the utmost respect for all my colleagues, which have made an effort to decipher the enigma. Other channels have remained silent and without answer. They have pretended to be clueless, as if nothing had happened, as if the cat had got their tongue, not knowing what to say or what to think. When I do not find the answer to a problem, I cannot sleep until I find it, and sometimes I find the solution after having slept and consulted my higher self. It is the difficult moments of life that people's stature is measured. Moreover, the great evolutionary changes of humanity always occur in the midst of a crisis or a problem, because the word crisis means transformation. You never evolve sitting comfortably on a couch, on a sofa. It's as if they put a wasp in your underpants to make you react. Like life brings challenges all the time, even if we don't look for them. Reactions. Some said they couldn't believe what they were seeing, and others got cranky, insulting the disclosures. I am sorry, but I report as best as I can. I am also sorry for those who have thrown in the towel, like the bosses. But they don't know that this liberation train still has a long way to go. This has only just begun, and the road is long and winding but sure. Everyone is trying to explain what has happened, but platitudes, treason and boring platitudes are argued to try to clarify what has happened, which is much more subtle and mysterious than it seems. Evil has been left to run its course, to expose itself. Sometimes it's necessary to expose evil so that people wake up and react against injustice. We already know for a fact that the key is within and not outside of us. But the outside must be a reflection of the inside, and that reflection has not yet occurred. Explanation. At first, I was disappointed in yesterday's event, as everyone else was. But then I realized that the military want Biden to be sworn in and go all the way to consummate facts before indicting him. It had to happen that way for a shocking event to occur for people to get attention. It's like when the police let a crime to be committed to catch them red-handed. It is difficult to understand this reasoning because it reverses the logical principle of causality that we are used to. But it's the way the Alliance quantum computers reason. Something that confuses and drives most of us humans who are not so twisted in our reasoning. So think a little before spouting out your mouths, toads and snakes. It's not a human strategy, but a divine one. Proof by reduction ad absurdum is a type of argument widely used in mathematical equations. It consists of demonstrating that the mathematical proposition is true, providing that if it were not true, it would lead to a contradiction, so it would be the truth. If you are being, you harbor a source of wisdom. In your being, you harbor a source of wisdom, the quantum intelligence of body, soul, and spirit. You can reach whatever you need just knowing how to access it. Some discoveries of quantum physics made us to go beyond logical and rational thinking and take us into a mysterious world where space and time are not what they seem. Military loss. In the McCarthy era, there was a fear that communists would take over the government, so provisions were put in place for the military to protect us if that happened. These provisions allowed the military to take over while removing the belligerent government and re-establishing a legal civilian government, with the military running the election to do so. Laterally, the army was set up as the last line of defense of the Constitution in the event an illegal government was installed. That is why they did not send a government plane for the supposedly elected president, because they know it is not in order, and once he has sworn in, the government became suspect under military law, and the army is now responsible for restoring the situation to prevent foreign powers from taking over. Positive rumors. Simon Parkes has revealed the contents of Trump's secret letter to Biden, which has only one 5-word phrase: Joe, you know I won. Clearer than water. This reminds me of the secret folder they handed out to attendees at George Bush Sr.'s funeral, which had only 2 very clear words: game over, meaning the game is over. Don Carlos of Marbella received from his intelligence a complete video of the inauguration hours before it was broadcast, which proves that the ceremony was recorded beforehand, although the TV stations broadcast it as if it was live streaming, but it wasn't. Another deception. Don Carlos adds that in the fog of war everything seems confused, but the fog will lift and the light will shine on us all eventually. John O'Savin, it's to say JFK Jr., reveals that last Saturday Trump would have transitioned to the military with General Mike Flynn taking to mopping up the swamp for a while. Trump would return as part of the 1776 Constitution of Patriot Party. That election would take place in March 2021, according to his opinion, but this is only a hypothesis. This would explain the last words Trump said before boarding the Marine helicopter. In quotes, "It is not going to be a long goodbye. We'll see each other again." Close. That is not long. I interpret very clearly that is not going to be 4 more years. John O'Savin said last Saturday Trump would have transitioned to the military with General Michael Flynn to mop up the swamp for a while. Trump would return as part of the Constitution of Patriot Party. This is a repetition. This is a repetition, this paragraph. Excuse me. On Tuesday, January 19, many media networks were told to anticipate a public declaration of martial law at any time during the next 5 days. On Wednesday, January 20th, the armed forces began mass arrests in secret. The emergency broadcast system would take over all U.S. television networks. The timing of this would depend on General Flynn's decision and the cooperation of the various networks in truthfully broadcasting the day's events. After the emergency broadcast system took over, the military would produce all television programming for at least the next 72 hours. That programming would begin with Trump saying, "The storm is upon us," in quotes, and he would deliver 7 more messages over the next 72 hours. The networks could be criminally liable if they didn't allow the broadcast to air. There is a possibility that the army itself could announce through the emergency broadcast system a temporary suspension of the presidency and move to a temporary interim form of a government overseen by the military. All of these are hypotheses because we don't know anything for sure. This can change. A chess game hasn't been lost, but a very important move. But there are many more levels to be made before the final checkmate. Trump's last words are very eloquent for those who have doubts. It's not going to be a long goodbye, we will see each other again. This is not a fight between Republicans and Democrats, but a fight between good and evil, between light and darkness. Starting from the principle that not all the Republicans are good and not all the Democrats are bad. There is everything as in a pharmacy. But it is true that there is more corruption in the Democratic Party than in the Republican one. And it is true that they want to impose a dictatorial globalism. The Republicans also have their own model of globalism, but much more freer and less strict. Everything that doesn't align with the universal law will fall, be it Democrat or Republican. Something doesn't match. Something doesn't fit. Yesterday, Wednesday, the sun entered the month of Aquarius, but the scenario we saw was not of Aquarius, but of stale pieces. Perhaps what people wish for in their ignorance has manifested, or perhaps they have shown an inverse scenario to be expected, one to distract attention from what was happening in other parts of the world, because I do not believe that a single event like this, however important it is, will put an end to the whole organization and the strategy of the alliance, planned for many years, which still has a lot of rope left in it. Such a false Sister Ciara, a resident of Dublin, Ireland, has enigmatically said that America has entered a geriatric interlude blinded to what will happen next, and added, prepare for the unknown by studying how others in the past have dealt with the unpredictable. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the dumbest administration on earth. Close. As founder, John Adams said, you will never know how much it has cost my generation to preserve your freedom. I hope you will use it well and not waste it. Short news, While the mainstream media and the federal government reported imminent threats of patriot violence during the presidential inauguration at the state capitol buildings, nothing significant happened in the reports. Meanwhile, after the inauguration, groups such as the Warriors of the Mask were reportedly causing chaos in several cities. What are they complaining about them if they have supposedly won? Globalists signed a manifesto to restart the cabal. A memo written by a group of top high-level bureaucrats, including Henry Kissinger and former British Prime Minister Tony Blair, provided a blueprint of sorts of the Biden administration to undo all trade war tactics. Rabobank criticizes President Biden, in quotes, "While we expect Biden's policies to boost economic growth, we do not expect them to end the vicious cycle of polarization and social unrest that is undermining America." John Brennan wants a witch hunt. In his view, intelligence agencies should investigate religious extremists, authoritarians, fascists, bigots, racists, nativists, even libertarians. Close. We will have to see what means by each of these adjectives. According to Benjamin Fulford, there is the possibility of a Solomonic solution of a military interregnum to replace a bankrupt corporation with something that truly represents the aspiration of the people. This third option would mean that humankind would be free to decide its own future, rather than being dragged by fear from one manufactured crisis to the next. Theater of the absurd. Absurd is that which makes no sense, which is extravagant and irregular, shocking and contradictory, irrational, arbitrary, or nonsensical. Its vision produces a short circuit in the mind of the spectator that can burst into laughter or derive into confusion. When everything is meaningless, there is only one refuge left, which is called our higher self, and in that refuge we can find a lot of hidden wisdom. The theater of the absurd is a genre characterized by plots that seem to lack meaning, repetitive dialogues, and lack of dramatic sequence, which often create dreamlike atmosphere. The theater of the absurd has strong existentialist traits and questions society and the human being. Through humor and mythologizing, it hides a very demanding attitude towards its art. Incoherence, nonsense, and illogical are also very representative features of these common works. Many see the theater of the absurd as a work without logical explanation and without sense. It highlights the incongruence between thought and deeds, as well as music, as well as the incoherence between ideologies and acts. The characters have a great obstacle to express and communicate among themselves constantly. The theater of the absurd is an abuse of power, where the rich and powerful run over the weakest, and those who have less possibilities to survive in the face of so much chaos and confusion. Some human beings fall into the category of dark hearts, those who covet power and wealth at the expense of others, along with those closest and most dependent on them. The interesting thing about the theater of the absurd is that it doesn't give all the answers we expect, or the ones we think we are going to expect, but leave it up to us to interpret and analyze each part of its place. It is the same thing that existentialist thinkers, such as Albert Camus and Jean-Paul Sartre, or the Romanian playwright Eugen Ionesco, together with the Irishman Samuel Beckett, taught us. In Spain, the most outlandish playwright is Fernando Arrabal, Spanish poet, novelist, filmmaker, and plastic artist based in Paris since 1955. With Alejandro Jodorowsky and Roland Topor, he founded the Panic movement in 1962. It's a funny madness. Friend of Marcel Duchamp, Samuel Beckett, Eugen Ionesco, Tristan Tzara, and Andy Warhol. He spent 3 years in the surrealist group of Paris with André Breton, and the head so Mel Gussoff considered him the only survivor of the 4 avatars of modernity: Dadaism, Surrealism, Panic, and Pataphysics. Did the bros die? According to Dr. Michael Salla, on January 15, several news sites announced that Baron Benjamin de Rothschild died unexpectedly of a heart attack at the age of 57 while at his home in Switzerland. According to the famous writer David Wilcock, Rothschild was the Pindar of the world, the secret occult ruler of a planet who reported directly to the regressive off-world masters. What makes Wilcock's claim particularly intriguing is that he says that just one day earlier, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo gave a coded message via his Twitter account authorizing the final stage of a covert military operation to wipe out the deep state across the planet. Wilcock's claims raise intriguing questions about Rothschild's death, his possible role as Earth's Pindar, and covert coalition-led takedown of the swamp. Pindar is actually the name of the leader of his group we have been talking about for so long. It's a name that refers to the dragon and the male member of the dragon. That's the name of the leader. So the Pindar would basically be the number one guy, the head of the whole clique. Pindarus means dragon's penis, and Arizona Wilder says that Pindarus, when they change form, has very powerful hypnotic eyes, and in sacrifices, the victim's faces are turned towards him at the time of death so that he can steal the person's soul or energy throughout this magnetic process of the evil eye. However, a military intelligence contact of Fleming's said that Edmond de Rothschild faked his death when he saw them coming, and that he is hiding in Patagonia in Argentina until special forces can catch up with him. Incredible. Red events from 1 to 6. The first Red 1 event occurred on January 8th with the permanent suspension of President Trump's Twitter account. Wilcock gave a plausible explanation for the sequence of the Red 2 to 5 events that occurred with the suspension of thousands of alternative social media sites, movement of military personnel to Washington, D.C., and state capitals. Regarding the final event in the sequence, Red 6, Wilcock has a fascinating solution. He said it was a code message from Secretary Mike Pompeo via a photo of 6 bottles of red wine that he showed in January 14th tweet. If Wilcock is correct, then Pompeo's tweet was a coded Red 6 authorization for the final stage of a covert global takedown of the swamp to begin. The next day, Baron Benjamin Rothschild died. What was simply a coincidence, or was he a high-level casualty of the global COVID-Trump takedown now underway, as we was expected? We won't have to wait long to get an answer, as it's expected that the COVID operation would be publicly announced after the length of the presidential term which could be abbreviated. Medicine for the mood. James Gilliland of SETI has posted a message for the discouraged and disillusioned. He recalled that Jesus said that all would be revealed at the end of the time, and that truth will set us free. But in his view, everything takes time, and he believes that major announcements will come in the late March or April. And this would fit with the predictions of the famous Spanish astrologer Eva Lunella, of a relief from spring onwards, but I don't think it will be sudden but gradual. He also said that many things are being done strategically that may not make sense unless one understands how the Constitution and the divinely inspired doctrines of the Bill of Rights were usurped, and how control was taken over in the past. Efforts are underway to take back the Republic and restore the law. This will put an end to the two-tiered justice system, political corruption, and corruption in all aspects of government and all institutions. Waves of power. They are returning power to the people as it was originally designed. The energy waves hitting the earth have a function. They are to heal and restore universal law. As much as NASA detects the energy waves hitting the earth, they have no idea of their origin or how they will affect humankind. They are only a threat. It will implode upon itself all tyranny of the world elite, all governments and administrations, because they are not aligned with universal law, the awakening and healing of humankind and Mother Earth. Those who covet power and wealth at the expense of humankind and the earth lack a specific and necessary frequency for this shift. Polarity is increasing between those who master self-service and those who empower service to others. Karma is accelerating and it's becoming more and more instantaneous. Things may not unfold when or how we expect, but victory is assured. Stay in the heart. Speak your truth from the heart. Be open to new ideas, new directions. The greatest lies will surface. Those who perpetuate them will be revealed. When people awaken, they begin to inform themselves. When they make their own personal connection to their divinity, the power comes back to the people. You will see a quantum leap in evolution. The profiteers of war and disease will fall. Those who enslave the masses through dependency will fall, as masses become more independent. We will see anti-gravity formulas, fuel-less energy, medical beds, energy healings, and natural healing, and many more things coming forward to end most diseases. Food will become your medicine. Let food be your medicine, as the great sage Hippocrates says. Prepare for the great revelation. It has been the prophecy of all nations that we will join the great human family throughout the multiple universe, and that the earth will be restored. What you are seeing now is a process of revelation. All that was hidden is being revealed, and there is a last-ditch effort by the dark hats to maintain control. It is futile and useful. Remove all doubt and hold this in your heart until it comes to fruition. Remember to go to the heart. Many world leaders have been demonized, but are in fact part of this process. The good guys are disguised as bad guys, and the bad guys are disguised as good guys. Many will be surprised to hear who they thought were the enemies, and who in fact were their savers. The depth and dimensions of this divine plan are inconceivable to most, for it will have many twists and turns. Keep an open mind, a loving heart and pure intention. This will help you. Heaven protects those who protect themselves. Thanks a lot, friends, and take care.